You said it the spot on. It, to really sum things up, people buy people. They don't buy programs. And I've learned that because I used to think about, obviously, writing for T Nation, writing for, all these magazines. When I first started, I thought, I gotta make my programs like they gotta be the best, like they gotta be dialed in, and they gotta know this. I gotta give them exactly what they need to eat. And no, less is more. People want me. People want my story. They want that. Why people came to my gym? They saw that I came out of this injury and made something of myself. I didn't let this consume me and beat me down. And they're like, if he can come out of that accident, I can come out of this weight gain I have and do it. So it began to give them hope. Always.
Hey, y'all, welcome to another episode of the Mediocre Dads podcast, where being mediocre is a choice. You have to refuse being mediocre every single day. I'm your host, Queon. I go by Q, and I am joined by an amazing guest. He's a coach, and I think more than a coach, honestly, because I think I'm looking at I have his Facebook, I have his Instagram up, and, when you talk to somebody and they're like, hey, I'm a coach, right? And I've talked to a lot of people who are coaches and they do different things. But for a person like Mike here, who has owned a gym and then made transition to the online space of being that online coach and helping people, I can tell you there's an experience I think that you gain from being an in-person coach, more again owning a gym and helping people, then transition to online. You have a lot more, I think, to offer your clients and to people than who are just like, I'm going headstrong into this online coaching. Not to hit on those who do it that way, but I think experience matters, and I think that's ultimately one of what clients and what people want. So diving right into it, before we do get into that, Mike, I appreciate you coming on. It means a lot to me. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there, man, with owning a gym. I was blessed I was an engineering major. And so my
Holy
mom,
crap! What?
yeah. So my mom is a little upset that I never finished schooling, but I'm actually 6 credits short of an engineering degree. So the crazy story starts when I came home from summer for my last semester in school, and I got big into, after college athlete. I was a college soccer player. That summer, I got big into triathlons, and after soccer was over, I needed something to fill that void. And that summer, I actually got hit by a pickup truck while training for a semi-pro triathlon that I qualified for, and it kind of rerouted my whole life. It's like I'm a huge believer in God steps in crazy ways, and
Mm-hmm.
I got hit by this truck, and it basically mangled me from the waist down. I even had some shoulder issues, and um, I'm now on my 11th knee procedure in my
Wow.
life. So I was told I would never run again, squat, do anything really of substance, but it took about 16 months of me sitting on my couch with my puppy I just got a week before the accident, and literally just got depressed, hated life, was like, where am I going now? What do I do? Didn't finish school, and I couldn't go back because of my injuries. And um, I had a friend that sold equipment on the side, and this friend also was rehabbing my knees because he was a chiropractor. And he's like, yeah, I was talking to him, and I had a couple of local friends that, I knew would, support me if I did something. And I was like, hey man, would you mind just lending me a couple barbells and some plates and stuff? And then I called a shopping center that was local that literally was dead beat. There was all these vacant places in there, but there was a Lowe's building in there. So, I mean, it had something. So I called this guy. I was like, hey, can you give me a month here? I'm just curious, so what would you charge me? And I was like, all I got is $500 that my mom could lend me. My mom gave me the $500. She's like, I'll give you 1 month. And so I went into this space in this unit, and my friend gave me a couple barbells and plates. And in that 1 month, I took my 3 friends and grew it to about 100. And so
Holy goodness.
after that, I started knocking down walls. And then before you know it, they ended up redoing the whole entire center of the strip mall, put a Dick's Sporting Goods in, a TJ Maxx, all this stuff. The landlord loved what I did with my gym so much that he built me my own custom suite on the back of Dick's Sporting Goods and made it custom to suite built for me. So it was about a 12,000 square foot facility, turf field in there and everything. And I, loved it. And I just grew and enjoyed it until it became too much of a stress for me.
Yeah.
So I never had to finish my engineering degree and I took off. And after COVID hit, though, it was two kids under two that just made things very stressful for me. And after we had to close and I tried to reopen. And at that point, it was God's way of saying, "You're done, man. I want you to stop," because it was causing so much stress in my life that I even developed Crohn's disease.
Wow.
Um, so I started getting a lot of gut issues and no one could figure it out because I just was working 24/7 in that gym. And then I also trained like an animal and people couldn't figure out why I would swell like 8 pounds in my stomach overnight. And
Holy crap.
yeah. And here I was like eating perfect. I would do everything right, but it was just stress. And what Crohn's develops from is chronic overuse of gut, drawing blood in, stress to the body. And it had me start thinking because there was always that small population of my gym that never would get results, or they would for like 3 weeks, right? Like 75 hard people, like they
Yeah.
go hard and they get these results, but then it plateaus or they stop getting results. And it made me start really wanting to know what's going on inside the human body, because then
Yeah.
I was being shipped all across the country of like, oh, this guy's got rhabdo, he's working out too hard, oh, he's got this, or it's all this. And I'm like, there's something going on here that's not. So I started really diving into the functional medicine piece. And that's where I became more of, now I'm the athlete. Now I've trained pro athletes. I've trained everyday Gen Pop. Like you said, you live in the trenches. When I did this for 11, 12 years, I was in the trenches seeing all this stuff. And then it happened to me also. So I'm
Yeah.
like, there is something here. And whenever finally I decided to make that decision to not reopen my gym, I then started to look into functional medicine. I got licensed. I started diving deep into learning the human body. I'm now known as the guy that knows women's hormones. So um, I enjoy working with women and hormonal issues. I enjoy working with men, and it's also dads mainly because they struggle with figuring out their body and why what they used to do doesn't work anymore. And the
Yeah.
thing is as you age, your body at a cellular level changes. And that's what most people don't realize, is that these things that happen to yourself, like they did for me, it didn't matter how hard I worked out or how hard I dieted, my body wouldn't change because of what was going on inside. So after a lot of intervention, learning, studying, case studies, apprenticeships, I finally got ready to open my online coaching business. And I pivoted and just began learning and growing as that evolved. And here I am today. Now I've been doing this 6.5 years, and it's been a blessing for me to be able to do this and also have more of that freedom that I need for my family and my kids. And um, I see it as a way, like you told me before this, and as you opened up, like the online industry is booming, right? Everybody in,
Mhm.
in today's world is, hey, I can make a hot dollar in coaching. So what most people don't realize, though, is that it's not a black and white system where
Yeah.
you've got to do your research on who you're being coached by. Do they have experience, or are they just saying, "Hey, I've got a six pack. I did this. I want to start coaching somebody, and I got my weekend certification from whatever it might be." But,
Yeah.
like you see behind me, I've done all of this for years, but I put practical application into now a way that has a higher probability of success with online coaching, because it does. It has a higher rate. And the studies are crazy, but gym success versus coaching success, that rate with coaching is higher. It's just you've got to find the right person and they have to have the right knowledge. And that's what helps me kind of devise great programs for my clients, because it's based alongside of more along the functional medicine approach, where I always say you can't beat down a broken body. That's
Yeah.
kind of my analogy. And in the parenting world, like, everybody's stressed out. Everybody's inflamed. Over 90% of our country is stressed and inflamed. Over 78% of primary care visits deal with stress. And so when people go to work out in today's world with these Orange Theory, these Peloton, these group
Oh,
fitness, these
geez.
boot camps, all this stuff, all it's going to be doing is kind of like literally pouring gasoline on fire.
Yeah.
So my approach has been to heal, then push. And when you do that, you push differently, because when you push, you can't push like you did when you're 30, right? So that's what leaves me where I'm at today, man. Hopefully that kind of gives you a good analogy, but so that's where I'm at.
No, I love it. I think it's awesome because, you know, when I'll be frank, right? And this is not a hit on it, my previous guest. When I usually ask somebody to tell them about themselves, they'll be like, "Hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. Cool, take it over," right? But to be able to hear an in-depth explanation, man, it opens the door for several questions. I love it. I just want to be honest. I do love it. I do appreciate it, and I know the audience does. So I'll start with this though. You said you played soccer in college, and then you were doing triathlons on the side, which sounds crazy within itself. But he's like, hey, I'm just on the side. I'm just gonna go run this triathlon. I'll be back right back, and then I'll go play the soccer game. Um, but then you got hit by a truck, which again, that's a lot. There's a lot to take in. So, not necessarily getting into the story of getting how you got hit by a truck, but the after effect, right? Because I think a lot of people get to this point and where in their life where they something happens and they get stuck, and one thing that I try to explain to soldiers is they'll hit a wall, right? They're new, they've been in the army for going on, say, like 3 or 4 years, and they've never really struggled in the sense of doing something hard,
Yeah.
as soldiers yet. But then that time comes, they hit this wall, and they don't know how to go around this wall, over this wall, or essentially almost through this wall, right? They're just
Yeah.
like, I've never experienced something like this before. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And at that time, it's a moment of like, hey, I can give up and just say this isn't worth it. The army sucks. I can't be any. I don't want to do this anymore. Or they can seek help, seek senior leaders, and to say, hey, how do you get past this? How do you get over this? How do you traverse this? This is difficult to me. But I think you having an experience of having to do that in your life. What was it that really kind of helped you to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be defined by what the doctors tell me, meaning I'm not going to be able to, run again. I'm not going to be able to do those things that I've been used to doing. What was that thing that you got that inside you said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go forward and we'll figure it out the rest later.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it really even goes perfectly with my whole persona and my core values as a man and who I coach as well. In life, you're going to hit hard points. I mean, even like, for example, I just gave a shout out to a client today on Facebook,
Mhm.
and he gave me a shout out. He goes, in 8 weeks, I've hit half my weight loss goal. And it's because of Coach Mike. And I said, no, man, this isn't because of me. It's because of you overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
You're now seeing, because he went through a lot. He lost literally a family member. He also lost a pet. He had a massive job change. And in the midst of this, just in 8 weeks, the guy stayed resilient and the
Mhm.
guy kept the course. He fought. And when he fought, guess what? He was rewarded at the end. And oftentimes, especially with God, you're not going to see the immediate return on
Mhm.
your hardships. And then guys automatically freak, right? Oh, well, screw this. I can't do this.
Mhm.
And that's why people in health and fitness never get where they ultimately want to go, because when life gets hard, they say, okay, the first thing that's going to go is my fitness. I screw that. I'm not eating chicken and broccoli. Come
Yeah.
on now. Like, when life's hard, that's when you have to level up as a man. And I've learned that because of the hardships, because I've hit hard in my life that has made me realize I could easily be dead right now because
Yeah.
of the things that's happened in my life. And I've now chosen, because I remember even strictly the time that I woke up from being unconscious with that accident. There was nobody at the scene for over 10 minutes. But when I
Wow.
woke up, there was a lady holding my hand and just saying, "Don't look down, sweetheart. You will be fine," because my legs were pretty bad. And that was an angel. And I know God had a plan for me that day. And he was using my over exercising because of me taking college sports, my anger from all of that, to just beating myself up for 4 to 6 hours a day on a bike, running, to saying, you need to go help other people.
Yeah.
And I transitioned to taking that to feeling more confidence in myself from helping others and opening that gym. And so did I go through that phase of going like, I'm not getting anywhere, I'm depressed? Yes. It was not fun. But what I've now taught my guys to understand is that you're allowed to have emotions. And what most people don't realize, I had this discussion yesterday with a client, is that you're going to have emotions every day. Like, darn it, why did I do this? Or this didn't happen the way I wanted to. So I'm not going to work out today. You know what? Screw this. But when you obviously just sit and just focus on that emotion and sit
Mhm.
with it. And that's what I learned to do as a human is sit with my emotions. And I tell myself, I'm allowed to feel this way.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to feel angry. I'm allowed to feel hurt. I'm allowed to feel betrayed. I'm allowed to feel upset, tired. My kids were sick all week, literally last week, and I'm allowed to feel tired today on this podcast. But that doesn't give me an excuse to let go of my goals and my core values as a human being. And when you obviously, like you talk to these guys in the army, and a lot of people don't hit hard low enough to realize that they can come out of it. But
Mhm.
when you do keep working through hard, eventually there becomes the sun. And guess what? The next time hard comes, because it will come again. Like it's, I mean, it's inevitable. I mean, the stories are crazy. I mean, even a year ago, going through a lot of different things, I was going through stress, and then I met a guy. If you hear a story, I met my first one of my first guys in 2024 that I started talking to online because part of my job is meeting guys online. Right? That's how I met you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, a guy I met he bought a very low level coaching program from me, and we got connected, and he started, while I was going through a very tough time with relationships and things. And he's like, "Hey, I know that I can get you out of your hole you're in." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, man, I've got two houses." And I was gullible. I didn't know what, I mean, I'm a 34-year-old kid just trying to live life and break through a storm.
Yeah.
And he sold me on, getting an investment in. And then the guy ended up robbing me blind. And I got over $15,000 taken from me in cryptocurrency. So,
Wow.
and then I literally was living with my mom and having her pay my bills for months because I lost everything. So, like, when you hit rock bottom, there's a bottom. But what most guys do is they stay down there and they don't realize that they're in control of that moment and that you can also come out of it. And sometimes you'll sit with that pain for a while, but when you
Yeah.
sit with that, you can come out and there is something on the other side. And that's what trying to tell my guys, like that example, the client I shouted out to today, he stayed resilient. And now he's like, "Mike, today's my birthday. I'm halfway to my weight loss goal. And I don't even know how it's possible with what I've been through in 8 weeks. You did that, you know?"
Yeah. Well, I think we talk about, and I say we, whether it's me on my podcast talking to other people or you talking to your clients, and we use that word resilience. And I think everyone has heard that word before at this point. Resilience, resilience, resilience. In the military, it's a term that I think is overused. Of like, hey, you have to be resilient, you have to be tough, right? And while we understand what that word means, and we can apply it to an example in our lives, or even whether it's your clients or soldiers, they can apply it to a time in their life. But I think they always apply it to something small, never to something really big that's happened in their life. And when we hit that wall, especially you said it, we will hit multiple hard points in our life. It's not going to just be, we're very fortunate if you're ever that person who hits one hard wall in your life and then everything else is just kind of bliss and living life. And you're like, oh, this is great. You know what I'm saying? I've hit hard times before or a
Yeah.
hard time before, but this is great. My life's pretty good. Uh, I'm happy for you. That being said, I don't think that's what life looks like for all of us, and I think we tend to hit multiple walls. And after a while, the idea of being resilient is almost like a joke. It's almost like, hey, someone's like, hey, go be resilient, and you're just like, hey, man, go shove that where the sun doesn't shine. I don't tell me to be resilient one more time. I think I've earned the badge of resilience already. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to be resilient again. But what
Yeah.
is it that you tell those people who hit that point? Because I think again, sometimes people don't want to hear it, but it does require a form of resilience. Not the whole thing is going to be, hey, be resilient through the entire thing. It's going to it just requires some form of resilience, because you said it. You're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to feel those things and have those emotions. We're all human. We're going to have those emotions. However, for me especially, one of those things is, what is it that you do though when you allow yourself to feel those emotions, right? Because if you feel that you're allowed to feel those emotions, but then, being a man of faith, if I allow those emotions to then interfere with other things within my life, especially my faith, where I say, well, you know what? I have an excuse to sin today. I have an excuse to go, and I'll just use an example. I have an excuse to go look at pornography today. I have an excuse to stop committing to myself to my diet, because my life is just pretty crappy right now. I have an excuse to raise my voice at my kids today because they just don't understand and they just don't get it. And I'm frustrated as their dad. I'm trying to lead them. I'm trying to help take care of them, but they just don't want to listen to me on this random Saturday, right? And so we utilize these excuses or this rationale to say, well, I have an excuse to just treat people and do whatever I want. When I think that is the point where it's like, hey, you've taken this too far, and while you felt those emotions, you've allowed those emotions to control you. So what is it that you tell your clients or or even yourself to say, okay, I'm allowed to feel this. However, I can't let it get too far.
Yeah, no, that's a very deep rooted question there, because emotions are basically intrinsically driven too by how you feel about yourself. So whenever you first have these types of feelings, I honestly always tell people that it's going to be like the old saying goes, right? Your health stacks your wealth. So it starts with first self compassion and love. And when you first work on that area of your life, I think too many oftentimes, and I even had a great pastor that gave me the analogy of a circle, right? And in this circle, you've got all of your life stresses, whether it's for me right now, my clients, my finances, then you've got the stress of your kids, then you've got the stress of your job, then you've got the stress of maybe something else bothering you, right? Or your relationship. You've got all these things in this circle. Now, when you put yourself in that circle, this is what creates the chaos because you try to control all of these areas that then make you literally explode in the brain and you become someone that you don't want to be. And I've been there, like the reactive where, you might say, come on, Noah, you know better than that, man. But at the end of the day, he's a 4-year-old kid and you're reacting because you're honestly not okay with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And these reactions stem from what? Maybe I missed a workout that day. Maybe I've not been fueling myself correctly. Maybe I'm not sleeping well enough. Maybe internally I'm not taking care of myself and I've got gut issues because I did and I had Crohn's and the pain in my stomach, what most people would appreciate when you've got stomach issues, you're not fun to be around because you're
Yeah.
in pain all the time. So, like a lot of times, it's honestly taking that circle of things. You've got to move yourself out of that circle. And when you do that and you let God handle what's in that circle, and I started saying to myself, it's okay. My kids are going to be fine. You know, I love this with my clients. There's no need for me to stress about what they're going to think about me or if they're going to get results. That extra added things that are going to be controlled by him, I can't let that dictate how I react. So when you separate yourself from the circle of stress, is what I call, that's when you can start really having peace with yourself and understanding that these reactions you have and emotions that you have, they aren't validated excuses anymore. It's, I don't have anything to be excused from. And then that's where that can lead you to that next path, because we all like to make excuses. I mean, every day I have to try to, we all do, right? Like, I don't want to work out. I don't want to eat right. I don't want to go play with my kids when I'm tired. Like, there's all these things that you can try to validate reasons for not doing something. But when you switch your mindset to being, what can I do to be better? And what can I do to be positive about the situation? That's what can help you start coming out of this stronger. But it starts with your health. If you're not healthy, your mind won't go into the places it needs to be. So I always say that first. But you're right. We're I'm not a psychologist, but I try to not act like I can be one. But at the end of the day, we're all filled with excuses. And I always just say to some guys, just go work out. Just do it. Like Nike's old saying, right? Just do it. That's what creates discipline in a man. You don't want to work out? Good. Go do it anyway. Like Jocko Williams. What happened to you today? Oh, good. Like, to have that
Yeah.
mindset. And now I've taken that approach where, dude, like, I forget what happened yesterday. This is, my days are like that, but I remember just saying at the end of the day, good, wake up tomorrow and do it again. Like, when you just have these bad moments in life, when you can just smile about it and say, and you know what gets you to that point of smiling about it? When you hit hard enough. And that's what happens, is that guys hit it and they cower back. I'm too scared to go forward. Well, go at it, man. Because go at it and make a joke of it, because then it becomes a, hey, what do you got for me today? Cool. I want to face that. Let's go.
Yeah, man. Well, I agree with you on the hey, just go work out, right? Because I have found for myself that hey, if I'm doing something, if I'm feeling like hey, I'm feeling off, right? Like hey, I don't know what's going on, like with myself right now, I'm just kind of in the space where I'm just I'm overreacting to things that my especially to my kids, where it's like why am I getting so angry about this thing? It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, what have I worked out? No. Have I read my word today? No, I haven't done that. Okay, I haven't had my time with God yet, and I haven't worked on myself, and improving myself today. But yet I want my kids to improve, and I'm not prepared to do that yet. And I'm not saying that hey, you need to wake up and that means go work out and then get into your word and damn if you have time, figure it out. Now I understand our schedule, everyone's schedules are different. But I wanted to you said some things, and I wanted to kind of hit on two Bible verses that's kind of really spoke to me as you were talking. And that is, the first one is going to be Matthew 11:28-30. And he says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am a gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I think for a lot of people, what ends up happening is we have this feeling of something's missing. It's like, hey, you could have already worked out, you could have already gotten your word in, but you still have this feeling in your heart of just like this. It's almost this tiny hole of just like, I don't know why I don't feel whole right now.
Yeah.
And I have come to the belief and the conclusion through this belief that a lot of us, especially men, are missing God. Forget even men, humans, as human beings, I think we're missing God. And I think we're seeking other things first without seeking God first. Because in Matthew, again, I think it's Matthew 6:33, it says, seek first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness.
Yeah.
And we have to, I think a lot of us because we're missing that aspect of God in our lives, in our hearts especially.
Yeah.
It's hard to find. The world's not going to be able to fill you the way that God can. And I think so many people will try to find these different things of like, hey, I'm doing everything right, my life seems to be improving, my life seems to be good, but I still like feel like I'm missing something. Man, I can't stress this enough where I tell you like how God has changed my life and how God has changed so many people's lives. And I even think for you, Mike, how God has actually has changed your life as well. Where it, we know as human beings, like, hey, if I went through what you went through, I'll be honest with you, like I would not be able to, I don't think I'd be able to do what you're doing now. I don't think I would be able to have someone who said, hey man, you're never going to be able to run again. I'd be like, yeah, you're right. I'm definitely never going to be running again. That's the last thing I want to do, and so like I think the resiliency and the fact that you were able just to say, hey, lean on God and trust in him, say, hey, whatever you got for me, I'm here for. Help me, give me strength. And he gave you strength, and you're able to, it took time. Obviously, it took time, but you were able to get to where a point where I think you are now, where you're able to say, hey, I owned a gym and I was rocking it, I was killing it. I was doing the things that I would never imagined that I would have imagined 2 days. Could you imagine 7 days after your accident if someone who told you, said, hey man, just to let you know, you're going to own a gym. Also, you're going to have a successful coaching business on fitness. So just mentally prepare for that. Okay. Because that's to come. Could you imagine someone telling you that and you'd be like, get out of my face right now. What are you talking? Can you see me right now? No, I'm me owning a gym. What am I going to do? When I'm, go around with some crutches and be like, oh, hey, you're really lifting that well there. I may not be able to do that, but keep squatting. No, you did. You imagine that?
Yeah.
So, and the second verse that I think is that I wanted to give people here, and I think this very important, is Proverbs 4:23, which is, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And because when we in our heart we feel a certain way, we tend to speak that way, and think that way. And when we speak and think that way, because it comes from our heart, we are not able to get through those certain things, right? So again, going with the example of Job, if Job had allowed his mind to continue to be where it was, Job would not have been able to get to where he is, where in the end, where God said, hey, I'm God and I got you. I'll give you the increase. I'll give you the multiple. I'll give you double than that was taken away from you. And I think a lot of times we sit there and we think like, hey, it's in my, because we feel something in our heart, that anger, we're like, this is the only place I can be. This is the only place I have to be. This is the place that it makes sense. I think that's the devil speaking to us in that regards. But, Mike, like I said, I think it's such an amazing, you have such an amazing story, and the experience that you provide to your clients is what is in, I think is a big deal. And you talked about this earlier on in the podcast, which was, coaches will jump into people will jump into coaching saying like, hey, I have a six pack, so I can provide you with this coaching on how to get a six pack because I have one. So if I can do it, you can do it. And it's one of those things where they jump into it and they get, say, their first three clients, and it's been 6 months and not a single one of their clients has a six pack, and their clients are like, hey, like, I thought I was going to have a six pack. It's the start of summer and I'm still dealing with, what the weight or the issues or the body, this not having a six pack, not being able to feel confident to go to the beach and, and whatever the case might be. So for you, going through all those things, learning all those things that you learned, what do you think was the most important thing that you learned in order to make yourself a successful coach?
Yeah. You said it spot on. It, to really sum things up, people buy people. They don't buy
Yeah.
programs. And I've learned that because I used to think about, obviously, writing for T Nation, writing for, all these magazines. When I first started, I thought, I gotta make my programs like they gotta be the best, like they gotta be dialed in, and they gotta know this gonna, I gotta give them exactly what they need to eat. And no, less is more. People want me. People
Mhm.
want my story. They want that. Why people came to my gym? They saw that I came out of this injury and made something of myself. I didn't let this consume me and beat me down. And they're like, if he can come out of that accident, I I, I can come out of this weight gain I have and do it. So it began to give them hope. And what I've learned over the course of this is, and a great verse to go off yours is, 1 Corinthians 13:12, where, they say, "We don't see things clearly. We're squinting in a fog, peering through a mist, but it won't be long before the weather clears and the sun shines bright. We'll see it all then, see it day as all clearly as God sees us, knowing him directly, just as he knows us. The weather is clearing."
Amen.
And I love that verse because a lot of times when we go through hard times in life, we are squinting. I was squinting many times in my life and I was blindfolded, like, Job. And I mean, my story's been related to Job a lot, where I was just stripped of everything, everything. And I didn't see where things were going. And I let these emotions then take control of me. And when you think about it, though, as far as coaching goes, he was working, because you know what he's doing? He's using my pain to create my purpose for other people. So now when I'm coaching others, they see, like, wow, this guy's been through it. There's not anything that I can do this. And that's what I want for my clients. Not just, I mean, of course, I'm a trainer and a coach. I'm going to have a better body, but that's not the thing that people want.
Yeah.
They want to know, can I get them to this goal? And has this guy really got my back? And these are two qualities that I think separate myself from others, that make me more so a desirable person to want to be a leader, because I want that. Like, man, and we're natural born men. We're leaders. We want to be disciples. I want to be one, and I want to speak the truth of God. And I want to bring that into my coaching, which I do. And I also want to raise my kids to be the best examples and do things that they know that they need to do, because we live in like, even for example, Noah, at age 4, he's 5 now. He started getting into that phase of, daddy loves giving me surprises. And he was starting to kind of like, daddy, what surprise you got for me this week? And, and they were silly stuff, like not anything, they're 4. So, but
Yeah.
I didn't like that mindset. So since he turned 5, my goal was, hey, we're going to have a giving Thursday. So every Thursday we give, whether it's to, the homeless shelter or the Humane Society or our church or his friends or families. So it now switched the mindset around the giving, because I think our world is so much of an energy taking mentality, especially with social media. It's energy draining. And
Yeah.
so without my need to have social media, I probably wouldn't have it. But we live in a world of energy takers, and I want basically people that give me energy. I want energy seekers in my life. So you can always tell them, and that's just where I'm blessed too, that I get to pick and choose who I want to take as a client, because there are some that drain, which you probably know in life. And those people, they don't look at, like, that verse. They don't see things clearly, but yet they don't believe that things will get better. And
Yeah.
that's the difference, because with God, all things are possible.
I think one of the things is when I whether I'm talking to a friend, whether I'm talking to soldiers, is, you know, you have to want to help yourself, right? Like I can want to help you. I can want to all these things to happen for you. I can want your life to change for the better. And so you can feel better about yourself and feel better about the day and the days to come, rather than just feeling in being stuck in this feeling or this place that you're currently at. But one of the things that I always run into when I'm, whether it's dealing with soldiers, dealing with friends, or dealing with people, just whoever, regardless of whatever it is, when they've hit this again, this brick wall, is they a lot of times is they want me to solve their problems as if I were them. They want me to kind of almost take on their skin and then do everything that I'm recommending or suggesting. And then you say, you just do it, and then give me back my body once everything's taken care of. And then I can go about my day and go about my life and feel good and everything. And it'd be great. It frustrates me at times, because I'm like, hey, I can't want this more than you, because this is your life, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't want you to be successful more than you want yourself to be successful. I can
Exactly.
only hopefully encourage you through my experiences and through the wisdom that the Lord has given to me to help you get to where you can have that look in the mirror and say, okay, hey, you know what, I understand what it is that I need to go, know what I need to do to move forward, and how I'm going to do it and accomplish that, right? And like we seek the help of other people, but again, you have to want it too, right? And that is one of the stickiest points for a lot of people is they don't want it. They just want you or someone else, everyone else to do it for them, and then be like, "Oh, cool, I'm good. I got to where I wanted to be." And I'm here to tell y'all, the craziest thing is it's in in those times, in those moments when you really realize, when you really get to the point where you can be like, "Oh, it was actually the journey getting to that point of where I wanted, whether it was a goal, whether it was through a valley, if you will, right, of hard times. It was that journey that actually where I learned all those lessons that I can now help other people and teach and guide other people to get through that same something similar or a situation in their life, rather than saying, hey, have this person go through it for me. And I think
Yeah.
that is a big deal, because that people just, again, I trust me, guys. I've been there. I have wanted someone else has been giving me advice, and I'd be like, since you make it sound so easy, you be me and you do all of the things that you just told me to do, and I will sit back, let you drive, if you will. And then when you're done, and when you've gotten to that point where you say, hey, like, oh, we're good, I'll step back in and be like, oh, okay, I can see now what you meant. Cool. I'll do that next time if God forbid something like this happens again. And it's like, hey, that's not reality though. That is not reality, my friend. But I was on your Instagram, and I wanted to ask you about this, but I saw, because it really stuck out to me, and it's your first post. It's like, who am I, right? Talking about you. And the part that I got stuck on, that I was just kept rereading, and I loved it, was every man needs to tackle faith, fitness, family, food, and finances. In order to succeed, we dive into each to revive. Um, I read that and I go, I freaking love that. That's freaking awesome. So for you though, and I think I know the answer, but I get, I think for, any future clients, or even your clients right now, I don't know if they've ever asked you this, but for you, you have, what was that? One, two, three, four, five, these five F's, if you will. And which one do you think was the hardest to overcome, right? To get to really come full circle for you all, right? Because I think, like you mentioned, that pastor mentioned to you, like our stressors are in a circle. I'll just say, hey, all these things are in a circle, right? And we're working to balance these things in a way, and be able to apply, certain focuses to this, right? I'm applying this to faith, I'm applying this to fitness, applying this to family, this to food, finance, right? But which one do you think for yourself, I imagine, was the hardest part, for the one to really hone in and say, I've got this to where I can get through and do what I need to do.
You know, that's another great question, because that is a big part of my program is the 5 pillars. And for me personally, there's always gonna be that lingering need to, especially when I've never come like, a lot of people in our world that make it in the online space, they've got funding, backing, exposure. I came from nothing, and I literally always stressed with money. Money and finances were a big thing that I always kind of felt like I never could handle. Even like when people think gym owners are rich people, I got something else coming for you. It's not easy. And then it became a hamster wheel, and then it's where there's like, as people come in and out. I mean, the churn was crazy. The stat that I actually came up with was 89.7% of people, if they didn't come for 10 days, never came back again. So
Wow.
then I get victimized as what? The guy that just puts ads out and markets for gym people but what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So you have such a negative relationship with money as you begin to do the entrepreneurial type work. And I wanted to create a lifestyle for my kids that wasn't centered around that, where I didn't have to worry, where I didn't want extravagant, but I wanted to be comfortable.
Mhm.
So I made steps in making that decision to happen. And guess what? God threw me a storm, and it's funny because when I first started online coaching, I really was finally like, oh my gosh, like I don't have to pay 11 people and I don't have a lease that I'm paying 4 grand on a month. And
Yeah.
I made this. So this is my what really? Like, like I had that hype of like this is it. This is what I gotta do. And gone, all of it,
Yeah.
and it was like in a heartbeat, and it made me feel like then what was so where it became hard for me was faith.
Mhm.
And most men are like me, where you grow up in it. I grew up in the church. I grew up deep in it. Sunday school, Wednesday night church, all of that. You go to college and it kind of slowly goes away,
Yeah.
and after college, then, you get life. You get married, you get kids, and then oh my gosh, I mean, you're lucky if you even are awake on Sunday because of the chaos of the whole week. So you miss Sunday, and then it becomes a so I had that life storm wake me up. And I had that life storm tell me that what I was missing was that side of my nervous system, and it's the faith. Because what does faith bring me? It brings me that parasympathetic state that I needed because I lived in that sympathetic stress of money. Is it going to be here? How am I going to pay this? Are my kids going to do this? How are we going to do this? And then whenever I started developing that side of things, God just started to talk to me and say, brother, yeah, I'm gonna test you. It's gonna be hard, and you're gonna not and trust me, there were days, and we all have it, where faith is hard.
Yeah.
It's not it's not black and white because when things happen, there's a lot of things that you don't understand why they
Mhm.
do. But what I think I've learned is because I have learned that when I am faithful, that there's gonna be better things that happen, but there's also gonna be more valleys. So faith will produce great, like like the grain of the mustard seed, right? It's gonna
Mhm.
grow, but where it falls is dependent on how well you grow it. Is it falling on the concrete? Is it going in the soil where it's gonna be nice and moist and grow and be something blessing over time? Or is it gonna be put into the dry ground desert? And it's kind of where I've allowed now to say, you're in control of where you drop that seed. So it's the mind. And what I've now focused my big thing on is saying, no matter what happens, I'm not letting my faith go. Will I be angry? Sure, I'm allowed to be angry that this happened. Do I think that there's always going to be like there's no God? No, there's just then, okay, he's going to be teaching me something here. Am I upset about it? Sure. But he's got the bigger picture for me. And when you start thinking about it in that way, my stress has reduced so much that it has enabled me to be better as a coach, better as a dad, better as a human, and better overall. So, yeah, I would say faith is definitely the hardest thing that I had to overcome. But finances, fitness, I mean, all of it's not easy. Like everybody thinks too, like, okay, I'm a coach, fitness comes easy. No, it doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
brother, my kids, they get up at 5 a.m. I get up at 4 to try to sneak something in. Like you think I'm some guy that gets to work out all day? No, man. Like I got things I got to do too. So I get a one-shot window. It's just I choose the hard, and that's where I become more of a role model now because I will still get up no matter what. I say it this way: you get up and you hit snooze, guess what? You're telling yourself subconsciously that your dreams and ambitions can be put on hold when you hit that snooze button.
Yeah.
Because what, 5 extra minutes of interrupted sleep is more important for you to get your butt out of bed and do something more productive with your life? The principles matter. Why? Because then you get up, subconsciously you've already failed because you've already told yourself, "Hey, this stuff isn't important. This doesn't matter." So then what does that lead to? You go down, chug some caffeine, get that in your system, right? Get oh, now I'm tired. I got to get that, and then you make a bad decision. Then another one, then another one. So these subconscious ways that you're ruining your morning can ultimately dictate how you are as a human being. So I always tell my men, it starts with your morning. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to work out in the morning, but it means you have to do something productive for your mind. And
Yeah.
so when you start it by hitting snooze, that's not being productive. Get up and get yourself moving to where you first have space for your mind, whether it's gratitude, prayer, journaling, then you have space for your body. And then guess what? The rest will fall into play where decision making becomes easier, then the faith becomes easier, the fitness becomes easier, the finances, what you're putting into your mouth, and then lastly, making sure that you do make all of those promises come true.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I will finish with this last verse that I think really speaks to the totality of what we've been talking about, and that's James 1, 2 through 5, and it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its works, that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." It is one of those things where I tell people this is one this truthfully this verse right here, these sets of verses right here, is truthfully my favorite verse right now in the Bible, is because I always find myself going back to it and being like, like whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that it's testing your faith, testing of your faith produces perseverance. And I'm like, gosh, this is, again, you go through something, you're like, it's hard, but you know what? Like, consider it pure joy, because that means your faith is being tested. And that means when your faith is being tested, or it's considered a test, right? And it's an opportunity for your faith to grow. The
Yeah.
next time something happens, you're like, oh, God's got me. I'm good. God's got me. I already know. Look, God's got me. This is fine. Like I can get through anything because I have God. And I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
when, as we go through life, I think towards the end, I think that's what it's all about, right? It's all about
Yeah.
saying, being able to go through things and say at the end of the day, like, hey, my faith, my strength is in God. Whatever it was His will on my life for me to go through this. Then I will trust in Him and know that He directs my steps, and He does everything to work in my favor. So hey, look, I'll trust in God and know I'll be taken care of. And, I may not know what comes tomorrow holds, but I'll trust in Him, and I know what at the end of the day, it'll all work out. Man, Mike, I love talking to you. I think it's been a phenomenal conversation. I appreciate you coming on the show. Before we get out of here, where can the audience find you? What's the best avenue, platform? Where can we find you? Social media, website? What's the best one we could go to?
Just end on that. I had a life storm. So,
Yeah. Okay.
um, I just started my new Instagram in October because it was hacked and I
Oh,
lost
wow.
about 10,000 followers. So this Instagram coach Mike Over has only been growing for since October because I obviously lost it all and I couldn't
Hmm.
get it back. So I don't normally use Instagram as a platform because I don't enjoy it. I don't
Yeah.
think people get who I am from a 60-second reel.
Yep.
So a lot of my content happens to be more so on Facebook because I can speak more and write more, and I'm more of a writer since I publish articles, and you guys can find me in any of the national magazines. But more so, I just find me on Facebook, or you can go to my website, Revive Systems, and I'm always an opening ear. I don't like to how the coaches are, where they DM you, "Hey, how's your fitness going?" No,
Yeah.
like I'm here just to, "Hey, man, how can I pray for you, man?" Like I just want to help. And I know life's hard for a lot of guys. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're a man struggling with balancing your fitness, your faith, and all of these things in one, then I really appreciate you having me on the show, buddy. Whether that
Absolutely.
you reach out to him or myself, we're here. And men need men. Iron sharpens iron. So reach out to me wherever you find the need, and I'll be there to help.
That's awesome. Hey guys, like I said, Mike, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Hey team, I always tell you guys this, and I'll tell you it one more time at the end of every show. But I think it's important that you understand and realize why it's important, that being mediocre is a choice, and you have to refuse to be mediocre every single day. I know it's my slogan, and I say it at the beginning of the show, but I do mean that. right? I do mean that we can wake up in the morning and choose to say, hey, because yesterday sucked, or because I didn't wake up getting the 6 to 7 hours, how many hours y'all sleep, and you get, I didn't wake up and feeling how I wanted to. Well, you know what, I have an excuse to slack off today and just be a mediocre dad, or I'm just going to be mediocre today. No, we have a choice. That choice is yours. So I say, hey, just be better than you were yesterday. That's all it's about. Just one thing, do one thing to be better than you were yesterday. And that's the whole point of Mediocre Dads. Appreciate you coming on, Mike. Appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Guys, we'll catch you later. And that's all we got. Mediocre Dads out.